All right, we might get started. If you can sit around the tables with the equipment, that would be awesome. This is going to be a completely hands-on session. So the reason I wanted to talk about effective use of manipulatives from F to 6 is because I often, when I present at conferences or when I hear around different schools, or even when I've gone in to do consultancy days at different schools, I often find that by the time I walk into classrooms that are sort of grade 4, 5 and 6, the amount of manipulatives that are in the classroom is almost non-existent, and it breaks my heart a little bit. So my motto is that every classroom should have a maths shelf full of equipment for all students to use at all times. And it's not about the manipulatives that need to change, it's about the lesson and the task and the teaching that has to change. So even like I've got teddy bears on this shelf because this is a Prep 1 classroom, but even teddy bears would be useful in a 5-6 classroom and a grade 4 classroom. So manipulatives are really important. So we're going to talk about manipulatives in 3 different sections. We're going to have a play with them and talk about different lessons we can do with those manipulatives. So let's start with a warm-up. On your table you have a bag of Unifix. I want you to, without touching them, just pop them in front of you. And between you and your partner or on your own, I want you to estimate how many you think are in there. All right, pause there. I don't want to give you too much time because I don't want you to start counting. Kids hate to estimate. I would like you to turn to the person beside you and tell them how many you think are in there. And now I would like you to count them. So take them out of the bag and count them. All right. I know some people are still counting them, and what I found really fascinating is exactly what I predicted to happen. Some people have counted by ones, other people have popped them into different groups. So what I would now like you to do is you've counted them one way. Can you now find another way that you might be able to count them? Especially now that you know how many there are. So you've used your square numbers. Yeah. All right, so again, I can see people who have popped them into groups of 5, some into groups of 10, some into groups of 9. This is a really good activity to do for particularly your junior school, preps 1s, 2s, but also a really good refresher for your senior kids as well to see what counting strategies and skills that they do have. You could continue and go, right, now what's another way you could count it? What's another way? Find how many different ways could you actually count this particular group of numbers. So that's just a really nice warm-up to use with Unifix. You could do it with counters. I've got the blocks here as well. Also, with your estimation, it's really important. I did overhear somebody talk about strategy over here, which is fantastic. Even with estimation, it is really important to talk about what strategy did you use to make that estimation. Why do you think there's 27 in there? You really want to limit how much time you give them to estimate too, because you don't want them to count it yet. I often, when I do it, I'll strategically put a pile rather than in a bag, a pile that's sort of stacked up a little bit. And I'll say to them, your hands need to be behind your back and we're going to count how many seconds. Or it might be there's multiple different piles on the tables and they've got 5 minutes to get around to all of the piles and write down their estimation, so they're not spending too much time in the one spot. So that's just our warm-up. For this session, we're going to play with a lot of materials. We're going to talk about the benefits of manipulatives. We're going to showcase some tasks and talk about some problems and solutions for using manipulatives as well. So the first one I've got there, it gives students more access to the learning. What I mean by that is that it allows every single student in the class to access the learning. Even if they don't need to use the manipulatives, they can still access the learning, okay? And it allows, so whilst it's a kinesthetic skill to be able to manipulate and use and do the maths, it's also a really good visual aid as well. So over here we've got the different types of learners. We've got a visual, hands-on, auditory and other. 60% of our students are visual, which they'd be getting through the aspect of the hands-on, but we've got 39.5% of our learners are hands-on learners. So we've got the hands-on and visual that go perfectly together when we're working with concrete materials. So let's talk about cubes first. So when I talk about cubes, I'm talking about the 2 centimetre wooden cubes that we've got on there. We're talking about Unifix. We might even be talking about small MAB ones blocks. And I've also used milk crates as well for some of my lessons before. So cubes are amazing and can be used in so many different ways. So we're going to talk about how many different ways we can use that now. So the first one is the activity we just did with you for your warm-up. So some of the tasks you can do with cubes is estimation and count. You can do lots of pattern work with cubes. And the reason I prefer sometimes to use cubes is for Unifix, you can connect them together so they stay together. But also 2D, the 2 centimetre cubes, they're not connected, so you can create different ways with the, instead of always having that connection of the Unifix as well. Area and volume is something we can use cubes with, and we're going to do a little bit of that today. Visual data displays, so doing charts and data and talking about chance and probability. You can use these as your visual aid for that. So statistics. There's 2 really lovely, one of my favourite resources is Maths 300, and there's 2 fabulous lessons on Maths 300, which is 4 cubed house and building views that cubes go perfectly with those lessons. There's games, partitioning, building tens, and place value. So the first one I wanted to do with you was the partitioning. What I'd like you to do is on your table you've got either some Unifix or some wooden cubes, and I would like you to get 7 blocks and put them in front of you. So 7 blocks each. Right, once you've got your 7 cubes or blocks, I would like you to split them into 2. All right. And share with the person beside you what you have made. All right. All right, so far I've been eavesdropping. I've heard a 3 and a 4 is 7, and I've heard a 5 and a 2 is 7. Did anyone have something different? So we've got a 3 and a 4 is 7, a 5 and a 2 is 7. Did anyone have anything different? And if not, are there other possibilities? 1 and 6.
So would you allow 0 and 7?
I'd leave it up to the kids. So if the kids say 0 and 7, use it. Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
We 2 and 5, so we 5 and 2.
Ah. So then the question poses, how many different ways is there to split the 7 into 2? And then you can change it to, because it's really important to explain to kids that partitioning is and balancing equations is not just by splitting numbers into 2. What if we split it into 3? So can you now split your 7 into 3? And then a question again is, how many possibilities is there to split your 7 into 3 parts? So I'm going to leave that one up to you. I'm going to get you to play with the person beside you or on your own. How many different ways can we split the 7 into 3? And how do you know when you found them all?